Well, welcome. This is Wednesday, again, May 13th, 2020, and I am here from Tustin Longevity Center. I'm Dr. Ella Thorpe, and Talon again is not with me because he's taking some paternity leave since my son just had a little beautiful baby boy, so now I have 3 grandsons. But today, as always, what we want to do is primarily for my patients to have a means of access to ask questions. Any topic is fine. And so you can either put it on the chat, type into the chat, or you can email us a question. And I do believe Blake will be reading off some emails that came through with questions on them. And we don't censor the questions. I'll do the best I can. And so today I think we'll just start right off with questions because I didn't bring any research papers this time, and let's just get right to it. So what is the first question, Blake?
Yeah, the first question we have here is, since EDTA is not strong enough to hold onto both bound and free gadolinium ions without dropping and redistributing GD, what is your opinion about the use of IV STS and D-penicillamine?
So the question is asking about removal of gadolinium, and gadolinium removal is an important issue, and it's not well known by the vast majority of practicing physicians. You'll get gadolinium as a intravenous dye when you're getting some imaging studies. This is a heavy metal. It is a toxic heavy metal. And when they're trying to do CT scans and get some imaging of your body, they'll say with contrast or without contrast, and gadolinium is the typical contrast medium that is used. This is a toxic metal, and you do bioaccumulate it. So if you've had many imaging studies, you will be building this up. Now, I have been chelating or removing gadolinium for decades, and we use EDTA chelation. The gentleman who is asking this question is looking at research papers specifically about removal of gadolinium, and one of these papers is apparently claiming that there isn't a strong affinity for gadolinium with EDTA. EDTA is an amino acid that we use. It's FDA approved to remove lead from usually children who in the years past when we had lead-based paints and things like that, they would get a small chip of a lead-based paint in their mouth, like on the crib or something, and they would have an acute lead toxic exposure from a little chip of paint. And this is life-threatening. So EDTA, the amino acid, would grab on and is preferentially attracted to lead, and it is removed in the urine. It's quite safe. There have been millions of IVs throughout the world, tens of millions done over maybe the past 70 years, and so it's a quite safe treatment. And if you get enough chemistry, analytical chemistry, biochemistry, you'll understand that that attraction is because lead and gadolinium and mercury and aluminum and arsenic and any other toxic heavy metal has a positive charge to it. Whereas the amino acid, EDTA, ethylene diamine tetracetic acid, that is man-made, it has a negative charge, and it attracts the positive toxic metal and then safely pulls it out. And this is done not uniformly. There are, you might say, toxic metals like lead that have a stronger affinity for EDTA than, say, gadolinium would. Nevertheless, it is chelated, and how can I say this? I have done this for decades, and so I have weekly, I see my challenge tests pre and post after several chelations where I see a nice reduction in gadolinium. So although the gentleman is asking a question regarding gadolinium and its ability to be held strongly, nevertheless, EDTA on a regular basis, and typically we do 30 to 40 IVs over the course of a year, then we do some maintenance over a lifetime, which I do, we see a nice reduction And it will show the lead first as an order of affinity. And then there's another thing that complicates it in analytical chemistry, and that's called mass action. So if you have a ton, let's say you get a sudden dose of gadolinium in your IV dye, and then I do a chelation, the mass action of the presence of so many more suddenly introduced gadolinium toxic metal ions will have a greater ability to get chelated by the sheer number. So we have to deal with lots of things, and toxic metals move out. I like to describe it like a bus. If there are 66 seats on a bus, and the bus is the EDTA molecule removing them, and you have a bunch of kids getting on the bus, and the bullies always get in first and get the best seats. So if lead is the biggest bully by its affinity, you're going to reduce lead first. And as lead comes out, eventually you get rid of a lot of the bullies, and then you'll start seeing other less bullish, so to say, toxic metals like aluminum, arsenic, uranium, gadolinium start to get on the bus and get removed. That's why when you get a follow-up challenge, you'll see nice reductions in lead almost uniformly. But then you might see a higher amount on the post-challenge chelation of arsenic come out of you, or aluminum. And then you'll say, did I get suddenly exposed? The answer is no. The answer is we have reduced so much of the other metals that now we're mining and looking for other kids at the school who need to get on the bus. So hopefully that explains the value of science to validate that there is a specific affinity. Yes, that's less for gadolinium, but in practicality, and that's where I'm at in medicine, it is nicely removed over a course of 30 IVs.
Great. Next question here is from Bobby. And Bobby's asking, I am currently taking 550 milligrams of quercetin in my supplements. Those supplements are Citronox, D-Hist, etc. And I want to know if that's too much.
No, definitely that's not too much. In fact, there's a lot of good research on quercetin as an ionophore. An ionophore attracts the healthy minerals like zinc. So notice we have toxic metals over here like lead and gadolinium and aluminum and mercury and arsenic. And over here we have healthy minerals that are metals like magnesium or zinc, okay? And these are used by our bodies, and I like to describe it as God's pots and pans. For instance, if I want to make chicken soup, and chicken soup, I get my chicken, I get my celery, onions, and carrots, and I turn my flame on my stovetop, and I pour, 10 cups of water on it. It'll put the flame out. And if I just chop my carrots and my chicken and I throw it at the burner, it'll be a big mess. But if I put it in a pot on the burner, and then I put in the water and the chicken and the carrots and the onions and seasonings, I get nice chicken soup. So zinc and magnesium, things like this, are God's pots and pans that bring the ingredients, let's say it's an amino acid or some cholesterol molecule for being turned into another hormone. He uses these minerals as cofactors, his pots and pans. Now, zinc is very important in being brought into the cell because zinc also is a positive ion. And zinc does not want to go inside the cell where there's more negatives there, let's say. And it's difficult for it to come in. So it needs an ionophore to bring it into the cell to help bring it in. And that's what hydroxychloroquine does, which we believe, since zinc is so beneficial in stopping the RNA polymerase reproduction of the viral particles. So hydroxychloroquine is known to bring zinc into the cell. We know that quercetin is an ionophore that brings zinc into the cell. And I would say even a gram or two of quercetin. I take a gram every day because I have such bad allergies. Remember, Wednesday is my home gardener and here at the clinic at Tustin Longevity, the gardeners, and they're all out there chopping and grass cutting. So I have bad allergies. I'm a B-type blood, and we, as a group of bees, tend to have a lot of allergies. So I take a lot of quercetin. Probably this has helped me during the current issue of concern over viruses, but no, his dose of quercetin is quite safe. And then we would want to ask if there's another question.
Yep. This person asking a more COVID-19 related question. Just put it out there. When do you think it will be safe to mingle again?
When do I think it will be safe to be what?
To mingle again.
Mingle. When do I think it's safe to mingle? I think it's safe to mingle right now. Again, COVID-19, they call it a novel virus, a novel RNA virus. And the others were novel too. When SARS came out, it was a novel virus. When MERS came out, it was a novel virus. And what we're seeing is even, you've heard of an R0 number. The R0 number is the number that we think if one infected person do they have the capacity to spread it to another person, 2 or 3, and the above 1 is a concern for epidemics. So initially, when we were learning about the newer COVID-19, we were concerned about higher R0 numbers above 1. And some even, I think the World Health Organization had suggested that it was close to 3. But now we are getting good science and literature, and I'm on top of this all the time. We're seeing the R0 number is now 1, and in some reports in Europe and in the United States and Australia, the R0 number is 0.8. So it is at the level that any other virus and community exposure would be. Plus, again, we need to talk about prevention rather than doing things like quarantining and such. It is the immune system, our innate immune system, that helps us to deal with viruses all the time. And this immune system we have is quite capable, and you can see that because the vast majority of the people who unfortunately die from a new viral exposure are the very elderly. You'll see the 80-year-olds and up are the highest for mortality, and as you drop in the age, and you'll see then that the younger you are, the better your immune system. The older you are, the worse your immune system. And so we need to always be talking about things that build up our immune system. Those who are 65 years and older, as a general rule, and in my practice, I even see it in younger people, vitamin D is a very good immune potentiator for the innate immune system, your initial defense system. And I will say, hands down, there is way too little vitamin D. We're not out in the sun enough, or maybe there's clouds, or you're in northern latitudes, or maybe some of the chemtrails and these mists in the sky are blocking that UV radiation that helps convert to vitamin D in your skin. Unfortunately, if you are black, the pigment amount in your skin will diminish your vitamin D. And if we look at some of the research from New York, we find that even though in New York maybe 18% of the population is black, we find that they're disproportionately the ones who are admitted to the hospitals for severe upper respiratory distress syndromes and have a higher mortality rate. So they're overrepresented in the population. And could it be that they have lower vitamin D, less exposure? Yes. But the other thing also is they, as a class, have more high blood pressure. And some of the research is clearly showing that the oxygen deprivation is not just lung injury, but it's the entire cardiovascular system with endothelial, the lining of the blood vessel damage. And there are ACE2 receptors on the endothelium, and microclots that are developing. Interestingly enough, we find a higher prevalence of men. And you know, on the X chromosome is where it's, you carry your ACE2 gene code, and women get 2 X chromosomes. So we have more ACE2 receptors that are very important in maintaining normal blood pressure and lowering inflammation. The other thing is, in the black population, as just a point of note, they tend to have more von Willebrand factor in their system as a class of people. And when you have damage to the inside shear force from high blood pressure, high blood sugar damaging the lining of your blood vessel, then you're going to interrupt and injure those endothelial cells, and they will release von Willebrand's factor, and then factor 8 will come in and start creating little microclots. So this is something that we need to talk about if we really are concerned about helping the population. It is preventive medicine that is the key. So here is your best preventive medicine: water. Drink your water. Drink half your weight in pounds. So if you're a 200-pound man, you would need 100 ounces of water a day. If you're a 150-pound woman, you would need 75 ounces a day. So here's your very first anti-inflammatory, health, innate immune building item. We've already discussed at length the value of vitamin D, which enhances the immune system. Vitamin C, even intravenous vitamin C, is very good as an anti-inflammatory for that cytokine storm that happens all over. And then since we brought up EDTA chelation, EDTA chelation should have been used by all the intensive care units and all the management courses for acute respiratory distress syndrome, in my opinion, because EDTA chelation itself is an anti-inflammatory, endothelial lining, helping through the production of nitrous oxide. Among many other things, it reduces the oxidative stress. The nitric oxide vasodilates, enhances the oxygen delivery, removing the waste material. So all intensive care patients, to enhance microcirculation, should be using EDTA chelation with vitamin C, along with their other therapeutic modalities, whether it's hydroxychloroquine, whether it's remdesivir, the antiviral agent, and vitamin D and zinc. I guess I went a long time on that answer. Did I answer the question?
Well, I think maybe to sum it up, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing is it's safe to mingle as long as you're taking care of your immune system.
It's safe to mingle if you take care of your immune system. And you have to understand, the people who succumb are so elderly, and the comorbid patients that are younger dying with this, if we could teach them preventative measures rather than just looking to give them a prescription pill, we could give them EDTA chelation. And in diabetics, with all that shear force, plus the sugar depressing the immune function of their neutrophils in their immune system, if we could help people with prevention, it would be much better. Now, I, in my clinic, have had, and I do care for many significantly ill people with comorbid problems, and I've had no problem. All of my patients have done well, and California has done very well as a state. We have about 43 million people, and Los Angeles, I think, has close to 10 million people in it. And I think they've only had in LA, the city, about 1,300 deaths, somewhere in that area. That's quite an improvement. And again, I think that's because Californians have always had some increased health consciousness and do take naturally more supplements such as vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and the like in their multivitamins. And how do I know that? Because everywhere I went, I saw all the vitamin C sold out, the vitamin D sold out, our nutraceutical had been sold out. And by the way, we have back in stock our orthodigestzyme and our vascuzyme. So it's all back for all of those of you who were calling. It is back.
Excellent. We probably have time for about 2 more questions. This person is asking, is it safe to have chelation maybe just once or twice a year?
It's not only safe, it's really necessary. If you go to my YouTube, type in on YouTube Tustin Longevity Center, and then when you get to that, hit the logo there, which has a little blue caduceus, and you'll get to my channel. And then hit videos. Then they'll all populate. And if you go back to, I think it was August of 2019, last year, you'll see one of my videos is titled The Truth About Chelation Therapy. The Truth About Chelation Therapy, I bring up the dates and the reference articles that point to the fact that the #1 cause of death in the United States, much of which is preventable, is heart disease. And the #1 cause for cardiovascular disease and really significant all-cause mortality is lead. So yes, we have a concern for a virus, but I'm telling you right now, you've got lead in you and it's in your bones. All through the years, you've been breathing it in, eating it in, even in organic fields, because the dust of the lead contamination of decades of lead used in the industry has covered the whole earth with about a 5-centimeter crust of lead contamination. Remember, it only takes a teensy bit to create toxicity. Now, this gets deposited in your inert bones, and as you get to about age 40, your bones start to demineralize. This has been all proven in the NANES 3 study that came out in 2018, showing really the reduction in cardiovascular heart attacks, strokes, and all-cause mortality. If everyone would start removing their lead, we would see about 800,000 less deaths per year in the United States. So if you go to circulation for 2018 and look up lead, you'll see that the all-cause mortality, stroke, and heart attacks will account for the high prevalence due to the presence of lead damaging the blood vessels, neurological damage, kidney damage. That's why all-cause mortality links with cancer as well. And it would reduce, instead of having 2.3 million deaths per year in the United States, all deaths from any cause, we could reduce maybe 800,000 of those, or at least half that, 400,000, if people would all start doing some chelation therapy. Because it's in you, we've all got it, and it's all treatable, and it's all very safe to treat with. That's why I always chelate. I'll try and get in about 1 a month for sure. I've done maybe 200 in my lifetime, but I started when I was 16, when I had a heart issue, and I'm 65 now, going to be 66, and so there you have it.
We probably have time for this one last question, and I want to make sure we get to it because this is one that came in through email last night. Wendy from Hawaii is saying, what do you think about the new bill in the House, HR 6666? She's saying that this is a bill where she believes they can come into your house and take your kids if they suspect you have COVID-19 for your safety.
I always believe in diversity. And what do I mean by that? It's wonderful living in America where I can talk to a black person and get to know them culturally, a Asian person, a Iranian person, a person from Colombia. I love the diversity of this wonderful United States of America. And that diversity, we bring in different ideas, different experiences, different sets of knowledge base, and then we can ask questions and talk. Now in medicine, today, it does not appear to me that this is the way it is. I think medicine is locked down by a top-down control mechanism through the training of physicians that are unduly influenced by the pharmaceuticals industries that finance medical school training and buildings and such. Therefore, we're starting to see a centralization of all the development of medical training in a central source. You could go look back to some of the arguments about this on the Flexner report of 1914. And the Flexner report was financed by the Rockefellers to allegedly for the good of the people to get all medicine throughout the United States in 1914 more uniform. And although I am for healthy standards of care, there's a danger in centralization of health care practice. I am for decentralization of government and of its impact on medicine. I would like to see diversity where we could learn about chelation therapy, and just because chelation therapy, they've lost the patent on it, you know, it's expired, you can't make any income on it very much as a doctor. So it's forgotten in history, and yet it's very, very valuable. So if we could bring healthcare back into a more fractured experience and training, collaborative of the naturopath, the chiropractor, the physical therapist, the psychologist, the allopathic physician, if we could get them more involved in creating centers for training up physicians and get a more eclectic view of treating the patient, systems, and how they all interact rather than one little narrow hole, I think we would not see the allowance for state mandates to treat a certain disease process that we're just learning about, although we have a lot of experience with the SARS and the MERS and many others. And we're starting to see that this is quite manageable at this time. Therefore, I am opposed to HR 6666. I'm opposed to the federal government or state government or even local government having the authority on such tenuous thin ice as to the actual danger of something. We need much more information on this, and we need to have doctors who are trained up to have much more different points of view of the problem and ways to manage it. And as you can see, we've managed it very well, and I've had no problems with my patients or myself, and I've been here every day, and I'm in that over 65 group, so praise the Lord for that.
Absolutely. That's all of our questions.
Well, I want to thank you. I would like you to subscribe, please. Share this with your family and friends. Put the like button and leave us a comment, and we'll see you next week. And if you want, you can email us at, what is our email?
office@tlcdoctors.com.
office@tlcdoctors.com. So if you want a question that you would like me to try and answer, I'm not saying I'm always correct or perfect on it, but I'll do my best as a general practitioner. And you have a blessed day. Thank you.